Hi, my name is Priya, and I come from a small town in India. When I was young, I wasn't good at English. I could read and write a little, but speaking it was very hard for me. Every time I tried to talk, I felt nervous and made mistakes. I would think to myself, I will never be able to speak English fluently. But one day, I heard someone say, if you speak good English, you will have many more opportunities. This made me think. I wanted those opportunities too, so I decided that I would work hard to become fluent in English, no matter how difficult it might be. This is the story of how I went from being afraid to speak English to becoming confident in my conversations. My journey began when I was in my final year of school. I attended a seminar, and the speaker talked about how knowing English can help you in many areas of life. His words stuck with me. I thought, I want to be good at English too. I knew I had to start somewhere, so I began with simple steps. I started greeting my classmates in English. I would say, "Good morning," or "How are you today?" Even though I made mistakes and some of them laughed, I didn't care. I kept reminding myself, mistakes are part of learning. I soon realized that listening to others speak English was just as important as speaking. So, I started watching movies and TV shows in English. At first, it was hard to understand, so I turned on subtitles in my own language to help me. Slowly, I noticed how people used simple sentences in normal conversations. One of my favorite shows was Friends. It was full of everyday conversations, and I loved it. Every time I watched a scene, I would repeat the sentences after the characters. For example, if someone said, "Could you help me with this?" I would pause and say it out loud, trying to copy their voice and how they said the words. I also started listening to English music. Songs like Let It Be by the Beatles had simple words, and I would sing along, even though I didn't understand every word at first. But listening helped me get used to the rhythm of the language. The most difficult part of learning English was speaking. I was very shy and afraid of making mistakes. I didn't want others to laugh at me. But I knew I had to push through my fear if I wanted to improve. So, I began speaking to myself in English. Every morning, I would stand in front of the mirror and say, "Good morning, Priya. Today, I will practice speaking English." I would talk about simple things, like my plans for the day. I will go to the market to buy vegetables. Then, I will study for 2 hours. Eventually, I joined a local English speaking club where people gathered to practice speaking English. I was nervous at first, but everyone there was friendly and understanding. The first time I introduced myself, I said, "Hello, my name is Priya. I want to become fluent in English because it is important for my future." It felt scary, but I did it, and I was proud of myself. To speak better, I needed more words. I started carrying a small notebook with me everywhere. Whenever I heard a new word, I would write it down. For example, one day I heard the word confident in a movie. I wrote it down and thought of a sentence using it. I want to be confident when I speak English. I also learned common phrases that native speakers use in everyday conversation. Instead of just learning single words, I learned short phrases like, "How's it going?" instead of "How are you?" "Could you please?" instead of just "Can you?" Using these phrases helped me sound more natural and comfortable when I spoke. One of the best ways to improve my speaking skills was to practice with my friends. My friend Anu and I decided that every day, we would speak only in English for 1 hour. We would talk about simple things like our favorite food or our plans for the weekend. Sometimes, I made silly mistakes. Once, I said, I am boring when I meant to say, I am bored. Anu laughed a little and corrected me. I didn't feel bad about it. I learned from my mistake and remembered the correct way to say it next time. Even though I was practicing every day, there were moments when I felt frustrated. English grammar was tricky, and I didn't always understand why certain rules existed. For example, why do we say I am going to the market but not I am going to home? It didn't make sense. And it made me feel like I might never get everything right. But I didn't give up. Instead, I remembered why I started learning English in the first place. I thought about all the opportunities that would be available to me if I could speak fluently. I also read stories of other people who had learned English, and their experiences motivated me to keep going. As I continued practicing, I began to notice small improvements. The first time I went to a cafe and ordered food in English, I was so happy. I said, "Can I have a sandwich, please?" And the waiter understood me. I felt so proud of myself for speaking confidently. Another time, I helped a tourist who was lost. He asked me for directions, and I was able to answer him in English. He smiled and said, "Your English is really good." That made my day. Once I felt more comfortable with basic conversations, I wanted to learn faster. So, I used technology to help me. I downloaded apps like Duolingo and HelloTalk to practice. On HelloTalk, I found people who wanted to learn Hindi, and we helped each other. They taught me English, and I taught them Hindi. It was a fun and useful way to learn. I also started writing short paragraphs in English. For example, I would write about my daily routine. I wake up at 7 a.m. I eat breakfast, then study English for 2 hours. In the evening, I go for a walk with my mother. Writing helped me use the words and phrases I had learned. The biggest test of my English skills came when I had to go for a job interview. It was in English, and I was very nervous. But I had prepared for this moment for a long time, so I was ready. The interviewer asked me, "Tell me about yourself." I took a deep breath and said, "My name is Priya. I recently graduated in computer science. I love solving problems and learning new things." I was nervous, but I was able to answer all the questions in English. A week later, I received a call. I got the job. That was the moment when I knew all my hard work had paid off. Now, I speak English every day. I use it at work, with my friends, and even on social media. I still make mistakes sometimes, but I am no longer afraid of them. I feel proud of how far I've come. When I look back, I realize that learning English was not easy, but it was worth it. It has opened many doors for me, and I am excited about the future. If you want to improve your English, here is my advice. 1. Start small. Don't worry about speaking perfectly. Begin with simple words and phrases. 2. Keep practicing. Try to speak or listen to English every day, even if it's just for a few minutes. 3. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. Mistakes are a natural part of learning. 4. Celebrate your progress. Every time you learn something new, be proud of yourself. Learning a language is a long journey, but it is possible. If I can do it, you can too. Keep going, and don't give up. Thank you for listening to my story. I hope it encourages you to keep learning and practicing English.